What's going on, everybody? Yeah, Alejandro, like as I was getting it started, I've been in such a work mode that it occurred to me that I was like, I don't think I actually even shared the live video out today. So before we even started, I'm about to share this on my Instagram because that's something I do every single week. But I'm thrown off a little bit due to daylight savings. Things
Dude.
Arizona, we're the only time zone that has the right time. Everyone else is really weird. Everyone else moves their clocks back an hour or forward an hour. And so it's like my calendars get so wonked up for this week just because everyone else's calendar is moving around mine, which is so weird.
You know what's
But
crazy?
what's
I
up?
was I was I was so confused today because I actually I'm in Central Time, but all my clocks in my office is Eastern Time. It gives me this weird sense of urgency to get stuff done
Yep.
earlier. So by the time I'm done, it's like, oh crap, it's actually early. So I have like an extra hour to do whatever. But I freaked out today because it's dark outside, and I looked at the time. It's I think it was saying 7 p.m. Not 7 p.m. No, it was saying 6 p.m. Central, and I freaked out because it's really 8 p.m. And I was like, "Holy crap! I'm late for Think Big podcast for like the first time. This is crazy." And then I'm like, "Wait a minute, no, it's not. It was just like how dark it was outside that really threw me off."
Bro, 100%. No, I know that feeling, man. So, yeah, I mean, the time zones are different, but we're keeping with the East Coast. So, basically, everybody else should feel like for you, it's still the same time as normal, right?
Yes,
Yep.
yes. I was
Cool.
actually down to keep it 5 p.m. Arizona time. That would be what, earlier? Yeah, that would be earlier. So,
I mean, you know me,
even
like
better.
I'm a early bedtime kind of guy. So I mean, I like that. I think the people on the East Coast, they may have an issue. So maybe we'll have an internal dialogue with me, you, and Sam.
Yeah,
We figure out what time this show can work. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, like we drop free value. This is free gems. No one's paying us to be here, which means it's got to fit into our lives. And it's got to be a
yeah.
good alignment. It's got to be a good fit with us. So yeah, that could definitely be a conversation. So y'all that are watching right now, there may be a chance that Think Big ends up being an hour earlier. I mean, put in the comments how many of you would like that if Think Big were an hour earlier each week and that we're operating off of that Arizona time zone, which is the right time zone, aka 5 p.m. Arizona. But with that being the case, we're gonna jump into it. We're missing one of our four horsemen today. We're missing Sam. Where Sam is at is I think he's gallivanting around Universal or Disney or one of those places. I forget which one it's called. They're all the same amusement park to me. But Sam knows the difference. I know other people would kill me if they heard me talk about that. But Sam is right now out touring Disney with a good buddy of ours, Toby, who's a professional snowboarder, and he did a giveaway for a few entrepreneurs at a meetup he was at. And so right now, what's happening is they're getting to spend a day with Sam and Toby. And like, how sick is that? That instead of just sitting down and talking about their business, he was like, hey, let's go to Disney and talk about your business. And
Nice.
so finding people in your life that are going to do cool things like that is absolutely critical for growth. But Alejandro, we should jump into it today, right? We got ourselves an interesting topic of mentorship versus self-education. Really
Hmm.
finding the right person for your growth. And Alejandro, correct me if I'm wrong. You've gone about business, a few ways where you've done it on your own. Essentially, you've done some ventures where you've done on your own, and you've done some ventures where you've, essentially hired or found a mentor. Is that safe
Yeah.
to say?
Yes, that's safe to say.
Dope. And as you went through that process, like, did you already have a preference? Because I know I have a preference now for sure. Well, I'm curious, did you have a preference for yourself when you were getting into like the space, like when you were getting into business?
My preference was to watch someone do it because I like to learn while I'm seeing and doing at the same time. I can't just absorb something and then feel confident enough to go out there and do it. So I've always preferred to have a mentor to help me out. So that's my preference.
Nice. No, I feel you
Mhm.
on that. And so it's interesting, right? Because honestly, man, like it seems like the most common sense route. However, that wasn't my preference, man. I was very much let me go figure it out on my own. And I think it was just a product of the way I was raised. And I'm sure people are like this. And I'm curious for the people in the audience, like if they agree with this. When I was growing up, I heard that saying, if you want things done right, you got to do it yourself. Right. Why would I pay someone to do that if I could figure it out on my own? You could just read it in a book, you can look it up. And so I had this thought process in my mind that I can go and figure it out all on my own and basically save money, right? And save, like, that's what it was about. Like it was absolutely working with a scarcity mindset. What's up, Elena? It was absolutely working with a scarcity mindset, trying to save money to learn something. And that's one way to growth. There is a form of self-education, and I think everyone should indulge in a form of self-education, but I really want to weigh out the kind of the pros and cons here of self-education versus mentorship because it's somewhere where a lot of people are at right now. So let's dive into it.
Hmm.
So
Can I say something really quick?
yeah, for sure.
When I did start it, I always wanted to have somewhat of guidance, but the idea was always because I was actually straightforward with the guy that mentored me in wholesale. I told him straight up, I'm like, hey, I want to learn so I can be able to do this and be financially free and provide for my family. So that I gave him that up from contract. And then when I was getting into business, one of the hard things I faced was letting go. That was really difficult just because, especially like when you have like one source of income, you're just afraid of letting that go to someone else that you know for a fact can't do it nowhere better than you. And this is where hiring people actually comes, which is also a new learning process, is hiring people. Like, you're supposed to hire people that knows more than you. And that's where egos and thing comes in between. You feel if someone's smarter than you feel like they're going to just take your company away, etc. But at this point, bro, like, I can't even think about doing something without delegating it to someone else so I can go focus on something else. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, no, 100%. And like, guys, like tonight, I'm gonna be honest, like it's gonna be a very just like open, candid conversation, like very
Mhm.
unscripted. Like I like just, and maybe this is just the nature of like I've been working all day, like straight up, like bro, I literally like came right off of like working and jumped into this call, and I almost totally missed our podcast because I'm like in such a flow for work right now. Like I'm actually very excited to jump back into my work. So we're gonna have like just a chill, candid conversation because that's really, quite frankly, what my brain needs and what my brain wants right now. And you and I have the mic, and the audience doesn't, so we get to say whatever we want. And with that being the case, it's really interesting, man. When I look back on it, so I'm still a huge believer of self-education, right? Like real talk. One of the first, I would guess, like I would say mentors of mine, because I believe in both, by the way. Let me just very clearly state this right now at the beginning. I believe in having mentors, and I believe mentorship looks like a variety of things at variety of stages in your life and in your growth and in your journey, right? So one of the first mentors I had was Tony Robbins, and I had Tony Robbins and Napoleon Hill as my mentors in the form of their written content, their books, right? And so their books, when I picked up their books, the Tony Robbins books, the Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, they started talking about this theme of you have to invest in yourself. You have to have self-education. Don't let school get in the way of your education. That's what they used to say. They would say, don't let school get in the way of your education. And for me, the only education I ever understood was that of traditional school, right? I was like a career student. And so with that being the thing there, I was a great student, by the way. I don't know about you. I was like a straight A student for the most part. Occasionally I would get some B's here and there. But for the most part, I like school came, I don't want to say it came easy to me, but the upbringing I have, my parents were decently strict, Caribbean parents that made it that when I came home, it was, after you're done with your schoolwork, you're going to do like your homework, and not like your homework that the school gave you. Like, here's the work that we as your parents are giving you that you were also going to do. So I was definitely above average in the school department. However, when they started to say, don't let school get in the way of your education, it made me realize that I had never picked up a book outside of maybe the Aragon series and like Harry Potter's to read besides a book that was given to me from school. And that was such an interesting thing because when they started telling me that, hey, a part of what you have to do is read at minimum for 30 minutes a day, that was a habit that I adopted that I keep to this day, that started to really open me up for the later opportunities. It opened me up to be able to accept deeper levels and forms of mentorship as they came. So I find myself bouncing back on my own journey between self education and going and getting a mentor to pull me along, and then going back to self education and then going back and getting a mentor. Because with that self education, as I started to sit down and read those books, really, I would say what it allowed me and what it gave me the chance and the opportunity to do that mentorship doesn't. And I'm going to get into why I love mentorship in a little bit, but I also still love self education. Self education let me go at my own pace, which is sometimes a good thing, sometimes a bad thing. But more importantly, what it let me do was it let me formulate my own ideas. It let me be creative and have my own thought processes around the things. And more so, when I say thought processes, it was like a self discovery for myself as I was growing through the process. See, because when I would sit down and I would read, I would get my own perspective on what it was I was coming across, on the information I was coming across. I was having the opportunity to formulate my own opinions and get to learn more about my own thinking. Whereas when I have a mentor, I basically forego thinking. I don't think anymore. In fact, like I recently hired a coach 2 weeks ago, and I am going through their program literally just like a soldier in the army. Like I am not having a second thought. I am literally just doing what they tell me to do. So, from the standpoint of self education, I like it because it lets me learn more about me. And I'm curious for you, like as you do, like because you're someone I know you and I, we literally the first time you and I ever got on a phone call, we bonded over just like our library, right? Like we were like FaceTime each other, like, yo, like let me show you my books. And you're like, yo, well, check out my books. And like we were just like in each other's libraries, just like checking out each other's books. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, what have been some of the benefits for you for your own self education? And also, maybe what are some of the limitations of self education? So maybe let's start off with the benefits and then the limitations of self education.
I would say for me, it's been growing up. It's been very difficult to have build up a what's the word I'm looking for? Build up a full proper vocabulary because I grew up in multiple different islands, countries. So I've always been around different culture, different vocabulary on how people communicate with each other. So for me, it was always really difficult, but I did understand how to do certain things that I could never put it into a sentence. So when I started reading books, there was a lot of, because good books, they when they have a specific lesson, they put it into a story.
Hmm.
And for me, absorbing the story from that book helped me improve my vocabulary because I was able to understand the certain things that I was learning. And because of that, I was now able to teach it to other people or better explain myself when someone asked me, hey, how do you do this? Hey, why are you so chill? Hey, how are you mentally stable? Hey, how are you keeping yourself consistent? I wasn't able to, to um, properly communicate that. So for me now, I'm able to put it all in a sentence, and or I will just, hey, read this book, man. Because back then I'd be like, hey, man, I don't know how I'm consistent. I don't want to be broke, and I just work. But now I'm able to communicate with somewhat of science behind it because now I'm able to communicate better and know the specific words that I can insert into my vocabulary to communicate with that certain person. So that was a big thing for me. And then it was also times where I've read books where it explained why why I act a certain way or why I am a certain way. Because sometimes you ever like, man, why am I the only one in this house that just like to work? And then when you read a book, it answers for you. It's not just,
Hmm.
oh, just because you want to work. No, there's a science behind that. Subconsciously, mentally, all that stuff, it's in there. And then books are able to help you identify yourself. I think that was the best thing for me for self-education.
That's interesting, right? Because as you said that, like you made me think about two things, which is one, self-education creates self-reliance, right? Like
Mhm,
where
mhm,
it's and self-education creates understanding. And
mhm,
as I compare the two, right? Because again, I'm looking at it as a comparison to mentorship and to
mhm.
having like a coach in your life. And a coach, their job isn't always necessarily to give you understanding. Their job is
Mhm,
to give you results, right? Like when I pay
mhm.
a coach, I am paying another human being to produce the results in my life that they have produced in their lives or in the lives of others. So it is very much give me the result. I don't necessarily care if you give me the understanding. I will go and find the understanding for myself. However, having understanding and having results are two different things. I think they couple well together. I think they create a more holistic form of success. I truly do. However, as you said that, it helped also shine that light because when you do have that self education, I think it does, like you said, it puts you in a position to be able to, one, communicate it to other people, right? Which
Mhm,
lets you teach it to others, right?
mhm.
It lets you compare the information that you're getting now to other things, and you can start to string together these pieces. So it becomes this glue, if you will. It becomes like this sticky glue, and this is why a person's self education can never stop, right? Like
Yeah.
it is a part of like, and I don't know about you, like, well, actually, I'm pretty sure you do this, right? Like a part of my daily routine is 30 minutes of reading. Like again, that's something I picked up. I've never let go, right? Ever. I will
Yeah.
hold on to that forever, even if it looks like sometimes reading is an audiobook, sometimes reading is a podcast, but it's
Mhm.
30 minutes daily of taking in something new for my betterment, for progressing a skill or progressing a certain area of my life, whether it's like my finances, relationships, whether it's a skill I'm working on, whatever it is, every single day. And this is funny enough, a common trait I found with as I was stepping into this space, a lot of 7, 8, 9, 10 figure earners, when I would sit down and talk to them about what are some of their habits, because I'm obsessed with habits. Like I really am. I think they're one of the cheat codes to buy. Like we always talk about biohacking. Your
Mhm,
biology, this computer, this body of ours, it
mhm.
has the ability to work on autopilot for us, right? Like it's kind of like
Yeah.
the Tesla, how it has like an autopilot system that will
Yeah.
drive the car to self-driving car. The human body has the ability to be self-driving as well, and that's through the use of
Mhm.
habits. And so when I look at that, it's like, all right, great. What are some of these self-driving habits that I want to put in place that will ultimately lead me to what looks like and seems like a more fulfilled life, right? Because I won't know until I get there. I'm not going to know if I like the destination until after I get there, but I do want to go and get there. So what are some of the habits or cheat codes I can use to get there a little bit sooner, a little bit safer, a little bit more fulfilled when I
Yeah.
arrive?
Yeah.
And that's through the use of essentially self-education. It's through the use of learning something new every day. So
Mhm.
even like for our people that watch this podcast, what's been cool, and you get these messages, and I get these messages where people reach out and they say, "Thank you for making these episodes so consistently. Thank you
Yeah.
for providing a new perspective." Like we open up basically a new paradigm for them to say, "Oh, I've never thought about things in that way." And
Yeah.
as the internet gets filled with more and more content, there's a lot more content that really, I don't even want to say it doesn't have the ability to teach because you can learn from anything, but the intention behind people creating it isn't to teach, right? Like my intention, your intention, Sam's intention when we get on this podcast each week is very much like I want to give value. And I know every time I speak, if I'm not selling something, right? Because sometimes I'm selling, and that's my intention is like I'm here to sell. And then on this show, I'm not selling anything. So my intention here is I want to provide new perspective that opens up a person's mind and makes them think, huh, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
And every day when I pick up a book and I read, again, like I'm referring back to this book and the self-education, it makes me go, huh, I haven't thought about that. Or, huh, you know what? That reminds me of this. And I see how that connects. And now I'm able to create new solutions.
Mhm.
So like that's a part of why self-education is such an important thing. The limitations though that I find self-education has is, and you tell me if you agree with this, one of the limitations I find for self-education is the problem of you don't know what you don't know is one. So it's kind of like you're looking like you don't know what to look for, right? Like when you're self-educating, sometimes you don't know what you should be looking for. So you're following your own trajectory, your own path. And the problem is, if you already knew how to do something, you would already be doing the thing. So
Right.
sometimes you might be going in the wrong direction in your exploration. So it's just, it has the potential to take longer. That same potential, though, is a double-edged sword because last week you were here for the interview we did with Matt Higgins, with Sam and Logan and Matt Higgins from Shark Tank.
Yeah, I saw that going on. Yeah.
Awesome. So inside there, Matt Higgins, I asked him a question. I asked, because he's a very intentional person, as are you and I. And I said to Matt, with being intentional and going out and curating great relationships, he was the guy that founded Gary Vee essentially and blew Gary Vee up, and their company is doing around $360 million in revenue this year. That's over $1 million, or just about $1 million per day, which is nuts when you think about it. And so I asked him, being someone who's so intentional with relationships, what sort of relationships and friendships do you seek actively to build today, and why are you seeking those? And he said, it comes in seasons, it comes in waves. And I'll show you how this comes full circle to self-education. He says, during a season where I'm very clear on, I want to accomplish this, and I know exactly what the goal is, I will very strategically go and find those people who are the right who's, right, who have the information or the resources or whatever, the connections to help me build this goal. Very much like when I know I want to work on my BMW, I will pick up a book primarily on BMW repair. I will go in directly to that book, and one more so specifically towards an E46, 2004 E46. I will go and get a book specifically on that model and brand of car, right? He says, but then after you accomplish everything, and now you're in this next phase where you're potentially looking for something, you've got to open yourself up to serendipitous moments, right? Like where just things fall into place. And again, self-education, it allows us to do that. But also, if we are in a place where we need something directly and we can't find it, we don't know where to look for it, that's where self-education may have its limitations, because you don't know what you don't know. So hopefully people caught that, and that didn't go over anyone's head, and I didn't speak too quickly, to really recognize and acknowledge essentially that people might be in a place right now where with their self-education, they are at the limit of it. Right, they are taking it down a road, and maybe it's no longer the road that they like. You're basically, the way I like to put it is, if you've been walking down this road for a really long time and you still don't have the results, right? If it's been 12 months of you trying to figure this thing out on your own and you still haven't figured it out, now it's time to upgrade from your self-education, not toss it to the side, but it may be time now to start looking at, hey, can I go and find somebody who has the proven results, and move my self-education into the form of, I need coaching, guidance, leadership, and mentorship, which is something that you and I both have done. In fact, you and I met because of mentorship. You and I
Yeah.
met, we both shared a real estate mentor. And
Yeah.
we went to this gentleman because essentially he had the results that we wanted to produce in our own space. And we figured, hey, let us learn directly from this man himself.
Right.
So in a moment, we're going to talk about this idea of really learning directly from a mentor, and when does it make sense to get a mentor? What are the pros and cons of mentorship as well? Because I don't think enough people talk about that. But before we do that, I did see Matt's question come up on the screen. What's up, Matt? That question that just popped up, which is, what are our favorite books? And Alejandro, I'll answer this question because I mean, I can nerd out on this, but I'm curious to know, what's your answer for what's your favorite books?
I would say the 5 a.m. club for sure is always at the top of the list. 5 a.m. club. I'm in business, so it's going to have to be any book with, what's this guy name? I can't never pronounce his last name, but it's Mike something, the guy that did the Profit First, Toilet Paper Entrepreneur.
Yep.
I always forget his name.
Mike McCowitz.
Yeah, Mike McCow. Yeah, I can't pronounce that. He does amazing books, and I listening to the audio while reading it. It's actually pretty funny and entertaining because he actually has a really dope personality. So I like to listen to his books. And pretty recently, Alex Hormozzi's books. Those are great. And that's just more business. But as far as just for like mindset stuff, I would say 5 a.m. Club for sure. Just top of the list always.
Nice. I love that book, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
dude. And those are great books, by the way. Like, it's funny, Mike McAllowitz. I found myself this morning just revisiting. I do a weekly audit for my finances. Normally, I do them on Sunday. This past Sunday, I had people in town, so I didn't get opportunity to do it. But I sat down this morning and I had 15 minutes in between the meeting and took care of that. And I formulate a lot of my business and a lot of my financial habits off of Profit First as a model. So I was going over that again this morning as I do weekly. And it's something good to, maybe we'll do an episode 1 week. I've done a video, actually, I did a YouTube video where I broke down the Profit First model piece by piece, step by step. I think it's something that people should check out. So, guys, if you ever need a good financial model for your how to handle your money, go check out Mike McCowitz's book Profit First, or go watch the video. I think I made it was like a 12-minute video on Profit First. And like that's actually one of my best videos on my page so far. Actually, it's one of the videos that have performed the best because people just really enjoyed it. I bust out like the old school like whiteboard and just went through it. For me, my favorite books, basically anything written by Napoleon Hill. Any book written by Napoleon Hill. Think and Grow Rich is a classic. Outwitting the Devil is hands down always on the top three, no matter what season I'm in. And Law of Success by Napoleon Hill, which is Think and Grow Rich's big brother, right? Like that was the book. That was the true manuscript. That's actually the book I was referencing right here. So people come and see this and they think I have like a law book. And I mean, it is a law, but one of my favorite books. And then of course the Bible for me, like low key, it's just like a solid book. Shout out to Myron Golden, who made me realize that the Bible is actually a great business book if you understand what to look for. Just great principles in there. So a lot of my books, I do love reading books on business. However, I feel that I'm a student of Jim Rohn. And Jim Rohn would always say that your income will never far exceed your level of personal development. So a majority of the books I read are on personal development. And I find that the more I discipline myself, the more I get myself to live as a top producing man, as a high quality man. There we go. Is that Jim Rohn right there? It looks like Bob Proctor.
Jim Rohn.
There we
That's
go. Let's go.
It's an old school book. It says leading an inspired life. Jim Rohn.
That's
I
fine.
haven't even read it yet. I got it last year. I'm gonna make it a priority to read it. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, man. Dude, Jim Rohn's the GOAT, like absolute GOAT. So on that note, so Matthew, hope that answered the question, man. But go pick it up. And actually, if anyone's interested, dude, it's so funny how things happen. I just got a message on Facebook, a notification. Eddie Trezari tagged me on Facebook. He's reading through As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. And the reason he's reading through it is because I made a list last year, or maybe even 2 years ago, of my top reads from just the year. And it's in my link in my bio on my Instagram. And so he clicked on it, found it, and he's just going through this reading list, which was just so cool. So it's cool when you put things out on the internet. And although that was put out like 2 years ago, people are still finding it today and getting value from it. Now, let's bring it around to mentors, right? Because I think the obvious benefit of getting a mentor is you're literally paying somebody to show you the way and allow you to skip a majority of the results, right? So I think the benefit there is so obvious that we don't have to spend a lot of time talking about it. It's really the job of a good mentor, the job of a good coach is to basically condense time, to take what took them decades to figure it out and to teach it to you into days, right? So taking decades and compressing it into days and then passing that information along. And how do they do that? They do it through seminars, they do it through videos, they do it through courses, they do it through books. So if you have the ability to interact with somebody who has the results that you want, go for that. And I got to give you permission to do that because, again, growing up as a New Yorker, growing up with a family that really we were very, I believe we had a scarcity mindset, right? Like, for lack of better terms, like, it was just, we had a scarcity mindset when it came to money. We had a scarcity mindset when it came to things, right? Like, if it's too good to be true, it is, like, those kind of things, which is to a degree a fair statement, but it was used so commonly that I thought anything that sounded better than just work hard for the next 60 years was too good to be true. So I was very skeptical. And then being a New Yorker, I was extra skeptical about everything because as a New Yorker, anyone that approaches you and seems nice or seems like they want to give you something, it's like, all right, what do you want from me? Right? Like, have you ever was and I'm curious because you're not US native. Like, you weren't born and raised here, although you came here later. Was that a common thought that, like, when a person was nice to you, like, the first thought that you think is, all right, what does this person want from me? Or were you already, like, kind of open to accepting other people's kindness? Because I know in different places, like, it's just different culturally that I'm curious, like, what was the case for you?
Oh man, the sad truth is I was very vulnerable when I first came here, and based off the life experience when I came to the US, that's has been a bit converted into now I'm a little bit more defensive, especially with when it comes to my energy and letting people in. And now I do have that mindset of like if someone's being really nice, I'm always like, what do you want from me? But before it's always like, yeah, let's hug, shake hand, again, to me, like growing up with like different ethnicity and everything, it was just normal. Like, but here, like it was just completely different. It was a different vibe. Yeah.
Right? Isn't that interesting? Because, you know, one of the first things I remembered when I got my first mentor, and this, keep in mind, like, my first mentorship program, that, like, I paid for, at least, right? When I got I'm going to say my first paid mentor, because I had a few mentors before my first paid mentor. But when I got my first paid mentor, I spent about $25,000, right? A lot of money, money I did not have, a lot of money. Scary, 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 scary. And the reason it was so scary is because the whole time, like, I have been so used to thinking, like, hey, if a person's being nice to you, if a person's, like, trying to, like, smooth you up, they're trying to take something from you. They're trying to get something from you. And this guy basically was just giving, 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 giving. And then he did ask for something in return, but there was also, like, there's no pressure. It wasn't like a, hey, I'm demanding you give it to me now because I gave you something. So I wasn't being guilted with the give. And I just felt like, oh, I have to give back. Like, I feel like I need to give back. And I think what holds a lot of people back is, like, that internal struggle. And this is why, like, it's so hard for them to go get a mentor, is because they feel like, man, like, it's too good to be true, or this person can't just be wanting to give it to me as much as they say. They don't want to just give me their secrets. Why would they share the secrets with me? If the secrets are working so well, why would they give it away? Right? And it's so funny. So I want to remind people too, because, again, like, on this show, I'm basically, when I get on here, and whether anyone cares or not, I'm talking to the younger version of me. And sometimes the younger version of me is a 35-year-old man, married with children. Sometimes the younger version of me is a 60-year-old man, a 58-year-old woman, right? It's the younger version of me is a mental place. It's being with a mentality. It's not about how old I was. It was more about the mental maturity. It was the experience I had had and the way those experiences were coloring my world and preventing me from seeing new opportunities. So, real quick, just because, like, when there's questions on the screen, I can't focus because I got to read it. So what's up, Elena? Says, I have profit first, haven't finished it. Do you think you can do a workshop slash podcast discussing points on the book, kind of like you did with Think and Grow Rich? The answer is absolutely. What I'll do, first off, Elena, what I'll do is I'll send you the link, because shout out to Elena, she's awesome. I will send you a link to the video I already did, but then I would love to do a actual workshop on it because it's fun. Like, I actually like teaching those principles. So I will put together a workshop. That's no problem. or like a podcast or something, and figure out a way to distribute that to people here, probably like in the next 30 days. If Alejandro reminds me to do that, like I'll put it on my calendar after this episode's over. Because if it doesn't go on my calendar, it won't happen. So actually, do me a favor, Elena. This is what I'm going to ask you, because I will do that for you. Just do me a favor and shoot me a text or shoot me a DM on Instagram and just say, "Hey, Marlon, when's the date for the workshop?" That way, I will be triggered to go put it on my calendar. So, with that being the case, check this out, right? Mentorship. Here's what I want to give everyone, because there's a negative side to mentorship as well, regardless of who your mentor is, regardless of who they are. The negative side of a mentorship is we tend to put, when we finally do allow someone to be a mentor, we tend to put these people on a pedestal. We tend to deify them sometimes, right? We start to believe that they are more than human, like that they are more than normal. And these are average people. But what happens is when we start to do this, we start to, here's what's interesting, we start to believe they can do no wrong because they have done so much right in one area of life. And the challenge becomes we start to take their good and their bad. And so I want to remind people that with mentors, that you are coming to them for a specific reason. And in the area of expertise that you are coming to them is where you should be listening to them. However, if in certain other areas they are not the expert, it is okay to essentially ignore your mentor in other areas and just come for the thing that they do best. And I have to say this because I've watched people follow their mentors, and their mentors mean well, but they start crossing a line and giving advice in areas that really they should just say, listen, that's not my area of expertise. That's not what I do. And they start to adopt essentially now from the blind leading the blind, right? In that particular area, their mentor is blind. And so I want to remind people to still remember that your life, your mentor will guide you, but at the end of the day, you still take the steps. It is still your hand on the button. You're still the one making the final call at the end of the day. And no matter how much a person loves and cares for you, when you make a mistake, they will not switch places with you to take on your mistake and to take on your life and to take on your troubles. So with that being the case, with mentorship, sometimes we relinquish too much, right? When I have a mentor, for example, I relinquish the how, right? I relinquish how we're going to do it. I'm going to listen to them on the how. But I do not relinquish what I demand as the end result I'm looking for. I do not relinquish my principles. I do not relinquish my why, right? There are certain things I continue to hold on to. And I've watched other people as they go deeper and deeper into the world of their mentor, because you're allowing a person to influence you. And this is critical. I let my mentors influence me. However, you still have to remain autonomous. You still have to keep and maintain a level of autonomy to think for yourself. Or else you start to go too deep into their world and you lose yourself in another person's world. Right. And Alejandro, I don't know if you've seen this. I mean, I'm not going to say any names because there's no need to call any particular person out. I've seen this among many different online gurus and different people inside their communities. I'm a part of a lot of things. Obviously, I had way too much time in the last, like during COVID, to be on Facebook and to go into like too many groups. But I've seen this happen where people will basically go from having a mentor to, for lack of better terms, like I jokingly say this, like a cult leader, right? And then they're losing themselves in it. And then it's like, okay, like this started off good and now it's going bad. But the resources that they needed are still there, but they've almost like forgotten why they stepped into the room to begin with. So I don't know if you've seen that. I know I have, but I'm curious. Have you?
I've seen, yeah, I've experienced it, yeah. And also want to spotlight the fact that you didn't name anyone. That's a very quality that it's really important to me when it comes to speaking about others, because this is, I can tell, I don't know if you got it from the Bible, but this is definitely something I learned from the Bible. It's like it talks about like lies and hurting other people. And this is like if you're in a scenario, because I've asked my mentor, and when I say mentor, this is the guy that was teaching me about the Bible. He was saying, I was asking him, hey, what are your thoughts on like talking about people that hurt you, hurt you? And he was like, well, let's go to this chapter, and it's saying certain things about, if you put someone, it doesn't matter who it is, if you put someone in a situation where whatever you say can hurt them and their family, you're in the wrong for that. And that was a really big moment for me, because I've never wanted to. Whether I've been backstabbed multiple times, and I never call them out publicly. I'd never, you ever seen people like blast people online and Facebook?
Yo,
I'm like, dude, like that's not even necessary, bro. It's not even. There's no need for that. Like you never know, that person could fall into a very deep depression, and commit suicide initially or
mhm.
eventually, right? Those are certain things like, man, I can't live with. Like, if you backstab me, okay, great. Let's just deal with it. I'm gonna move on, and that's it. The God will take care of the rest. So that's a very great quality, Marlon, that you have, and that's what makes you a very special person as well. But yes, I have seen people um, get lost in the sauce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it happens, right? Like it's something that like I would have never. I know when I was getting started, like, and I was like on this journey and I was new, everything was so exciting. And I remembered, here's what's interesting. And like I guess it's so funny, right? Like when I don't have, I got to be honest with like the audience, when I don't have a clear intention, or not a clear intention, like I said at the beginning, right? Like when I get on calls, or if like I'm on camera, or if I'm doing something, sometimes my intention is like to promote something, it's to sell something, it's to do like when the Think Big podcast, like we have nothing to sell. So it's like when we come on here, we're just really like my intention is to help people think bigger and to again provide that new perspective. So sometimes you'll see like my conversations will jump from here to over here to over here because it's meant to give somebody the thing that they're meant to hear. And so sometimes I'm really just talking from like the heart. I'm just talking from like from the
Mhm.
coming up. And the reason I bring this up is when I was getting started in this space, and again, I'm not going to name names because to your point, like it's no names need to be named. But I remembered I was a part of one community and there was a guy inside there who everyone in the community was new. Entrepreneurship was new to me, meeting people who were like helpful and go givers. And I was meeting all these people who were like, offering to give, like just so many people. And I was like, wow, like what a whole new world I'm seeing for the first time. And it was cool because I always envisioned that there was a world like this and that there were other people who thought like me. But to actually meet them and they're developed human beings, and I remember I came across one guy, and at first, Alejandro, I had this feeling about him, right? Like there was an interaction where I got this feeling of like, whoa, like, man, what's that feeling? But you know what? Because everything was so new to me, like this whole world was so new to me, I talked myself out of it. I said, dude, everything is new to you. Like, you know, people have been more kind to you than you've ever experienced in your whole life. Maybe this is just what it feels like. And I was like, in my mind, I told myself I was calibrating, right? Like it feels weird because the first time you feel something, everything feels weird the first time you do it, right? Like swinging a golf club feels weird the first time you do it until you get the form down. And now that form feels normal to you, right? Doing a backflip feels weird until you get the form down, and then the form feels normal. So I was telling myself that, yeah, maybe this is just, I'm calibrating to it. Because I mean, here it is. Like he's coming with the guys that he's helping me. He's showing me new skills. He taught me a lot of things. Like to this day, I still give him credit. He taught me a lot of things. He really did. Like I still use things that he taught me during that time. And interestingly enough, later on, fast forward through the story, the guy went on to do a lot of like very illegal things. He ended up going to prison. Spent some time in prison. Actually, just recently got out. Funny enough, so at least I've been told. But it was that reminder that okay, you know what? I felt this. I put him in a position of authority over me. I put him in a position to influence me, right? I allowed myself to be influenced. I made a conscious decision to be influenced by this guy because in this area, he was my mentor. He was teaching me stuff. And I learned once my principles start to raise the alarm, and I start to feel like, hey, this is going against my core values, it's my responsibility to pull back control and to pull away. And so I want to remind people that with their mentorship. And this is why the self education never stops, because the thing you should be studying more than you study any business book, than you study any sales book, than any financial principles, is studying of yourself. Know thyself, right? Like that's the most important person, the most important topic to be studied. By studying that topic, the rest of the world will open up to you. I truly believe that. So, it's an interesting conversation, and I'm curious also, what up, Anthony? Anthony says you got to believe in your gut, which I agree 1000%. Like you have to trust in your gut because at the end of the day, the best mentor, right? If I can introduce everybody that's listening right now, I'm going to introduce everybody right now to the best mentor I've ever found, who is going to change your life more than anybody. And I can make this guarantee, right? The person that if y'all like really, really do take the time to reach out to this person, right? And I'm not getting paid anything to like promote this person. I'm really not. Like, there's no affiliate or anything like that. But this person will change your life so drastically that you will be wondering why you didn't like find out about them sooner. And funny enough, this person is already in your house. In fact, if you walk to your bathroom right now, you flick on the light and you look in the mirror, you will see this person. That is the person who will change your life more than anybody else. So that is your number one mentor. That's your number one coach. That's your best player. And so taking time to get to know that person, that human. Now, Anthony says God, and I agree. God's above that. God's above you. That's the CEO, right? He's in charge. That's top dog number one. But as far as humans, I'm talking humans who are alive right now. That's the number one human that you need to go and consult with daily. Go look in the mirror and get to know that man or that woman. Right? Like, I love Paula says, thank you for bringing this subject up. This is fire. Right? I agree. And so as you get to know yourself more, here's something that I want y'all all to think about as you go and look inside that mirror and get to know yourself on a deeper level. Here's what I need you to ask yourself. One, you need to ask yourself, and you got to be clear about this because, by the way, this will help you guide your choices with self-education and with mentorship. And this is a recurring theme. And I honestly, I feel like I can never say it enough because I know for me, I had to hear this thousands. I'm not like exaggerating. I had to hear this advice literally thousands of times before it sunk, before it really settled in and I stopped questioning it. When you look in that mirror and you're looking at yourself, you have to ask yourself the most important question you can, which is, what do I really want? What do I want to do with my life? What do I want to do with this time that I have here on earth? What do I want to do with these gifts that I have? What do I want to create? What do I actually want? And that answer is going to look so different for so many people, right? Some of you are going to say, I want to take care of my family. Some of you are going to say, I want to explore. I want to have financial freedom for the sake of, buying a yacht. I want to have financial freedom for the sake of building schools in Haiti. Some of you are going to say, I want to go and spread the word of God. Some of you are going to say, I want to be a teacher. I want to be a mailman. You could have a million different things that you desire, but you need to identify them, right? You need to figure out, what do you really want? Because here's the thing, if you don't know what you want, you can walk to a mentor, you can walk to the library and pick up the books on self-education, but where will it be guiding you to? Towards what end? Right? Like, Me sitting down with Jay-Z, but having no clue what it is I want from him is great for like having a photo op, and it's great for me telling people I met Jay-Z. But what does it actually accomplish if I don't know towards what ends I need this mentor or I need this person in my life? So knowing what you want, critical. First step. Knowing why you want it is the second most important thing. Because you can't know why you want something until you know what it is you want. But knowing why you want it, this is how I know it's real. Right? This is how I know it's real. This is how you know it's real. Sheesh, I can't tell you the amount of times I sit down with people, and what happens is they go and they get the mentor, or they go and they pick up the self-education book, and they begin to regurgitate the goals of the book, or they regurgitate the goals of their mentor, but the goals don't actually mean anything from them. And I could tell because what's happening is when they're saying it, this is something interesting. We are going so far left field, but I don't really care tonight. It's you can feel there's an energy felt behind what's real and what's not real. Alejandro, do you follow on Instagram? There's a page called, I think it's called Good News Army or Good, no, it's called Good News Daily. Oh, no, Good News Movement. Have you ever
No, I
seen this
don't.
page? Good Move. All right. So this is the page for what it looks like for anybody, right? Good News Movement. No one can probably read that, but I love that page. It's one of my favorite pages on the entire internet. Like on Instagram, I love that page. 5.2 million people follow it. Hopefully, more of you follow it today. And the reason I love that page is because it is filled with nothing but like positivity, like very organic, natural positivity, like a mother and son being reunited after not seeing each other for 30 years, a man who lost his dog and it's brought back to him, a woman who's getting married, but her grandmother is sick and in the hospital. So instead of going straight to her wedding, she stops and brings her husband to grandma first in the hospital so that grandma could be a part of like the marriage. Like just these are the sort of videos that are on there. And Alejandro, what's so interesting, and I'm being totally serious, I will scroll some Sunday mornings. I'll wake up and like I'll pull out my phone and I'll scroll on this like page for about like 10 minutes. And before those 10 minutes are up, tears are coming out of my eyes. Like I am just straight up sobbing. Like I am crying like a baby. And
Wow.
it's just because of I'm like, it's so cool to see like, wow, humanity, like the amount of love that there is in humanity still. And what's
Mhm.
interesting is sometimes I watch those videos without sound, sometimes I watch them with sound, and they always, I mean, the first one always hits me every single time. Every single time it brings so much emotion up in me. And what I started to think was, because I'm super analytical, here's what I started to think, Alejandro. Huh, how are these videos able to get so much emotion out of me every single time? It's because when those videos were being captured, there was so much real emotion happening there. And so that real emotion is being conveyed through the video and it's landing with me. And then I started thinking about, huh, who are the people that make the best content on the internet? It's the people who aren't faking it. They're like, they're really, what they're putting out is real. It's felt through the screen. And that's why, guys, like sometimes I get totally off script and I don't care because at the end of the day, like I want y'all to feel that this is organic, this is authentic, and I'm sharing with you the sort of conversations that I wished were being had in my house. Like I wish if y'all are watching this and you have kids, that your kids are sitting with you on the couch listening to us talk right now, that we're having a campfire conversation and you are actively involved in this conversation. The way I see Abraham right now, the way I see Anthony in the chat, right? The way I see Paula and Brenda in the chat, like y'all are live here and you are actively participating in this conversation. Because when it's real and when it's organic, what you're able to do at that point is you can actually impact other people. And so when you're looking for good mentors and you're looking for self-education, here's one last tip I'm going to give. And this is just what I do personally. Look for the people who aren't just regurgitating information, but look for the people who have lived through the experience of implementing the information, because those people, their energy will be conveyed in their books. Their energy will be conveyed in their videos, in their seminars, in their courses, in their coaching. And you will actually be able to get what they have. The same way when I open up this Instagram and I go to these videos and I see people who are genuinely feeling happy and feeling joy and feeling love and feeling that human emotion, it is passed on through me. Like I literally catch it and it expresses itself in my body. The vibration literally passes on to me. So, Alejandro, I mean, I can like I'm all like warmed up now. I'm all gassed up. Like my brain wants to talk about like a million different things right now. But I think maybe I should chill out, because if I keep going, like there's a whole like my brain has already taken us down a rabbit hole to a whole nother conversation, which would require about another hour for me to even talk on. Clearly, as I've said in the past, I can talk. I like to talk. But I want to know for the people that are listening, right? Like, is this helpful? Are these sort of conversations helpful? Because people keep showing up each week, right? Like, and appreciate you, Anthony. Anthony said, "Don't stop, let's go." Right? We do got to stop though, because I do have to I run a call on Tuesday nights for one of those communities that I am a part of. Right? For shout out to Pip Stellick. Pip Stellick, actually one of my first mentors ever, at least my first paid mentor. Shout out to that man, because if you guys appreciate how I give value, he was one of the first mentors. Him and a man named Leon Williams were the first two mentors in my life that were outside of my family that have become family to me, and who taught me to go and give. Like they just, that's what they did. They just gave. And then as well as Pace Morby, right? Like but he was the third in line, right? Now he's done it bigger than I've seen almost anybody else do it. However, like these were the men who have shown me to go give. Like my parents taught me how to do it as well. Just no one had shown me how to do it at scale. And these men showed me how to do it at scale. And so on that note, we should probably start wrapping it up, right, Alejandro? I don't know how much time do we got. I think we got like 2 minutes left on the
Yeah,
clock.
2 minutes.
So Alejandro, I mean, again, I'm gonna stop talking for a minute, because I think I should. You know, but I will say this final thing. We're stepping into every day has always been unknown. Let's be honest. Tomorrow, no one knows what was happening tomorrow. Like no one ever knew what was going to happen tomorrow. Now, things moved slower in the past relative to how things are moving today as far as technology is concerned. And things move very quickly today. And with that, we are in an age of information. Whether you've realized it or not, we have transitioned into the age of information since the early 2000s. And since COVID, the transition has sped up drastically. Normally, when there's a transferring from one age to the next, it's usually a 20 to 40-year process historically. COVID really sped that up, and like it literally slingshot us into where we are today, where we've got AI, we've got social media, we've got so much information being thrown at people, so much so. And although you have all the information at your fingertip, more information than you've ever had, it's actually overwhelming how much information it's had. I used to think people don't need to hear another person talking about anything anymore, because they already have all the access. But what I found was, with all the information, what's missing is most individuals they're struggling for understanding how it all connects. Right. So although the information is all there, what the struggle is, what the dilemma, the social dilemma, if you will, is figuring out how to interpret all of the information in a useful way that supports their goals, their dreams, their life. And so, again, a big part of this podcast is very much to help you with integrating that information into a useful manner towards, quite frankly, when I'm speaking, that useful manner will look like towards your personal development. It will look like transforming you into the person that becomes the individual worthy of the results, worthy of the success. And I like to look at it this way. Success, and I learned this from Jim Rohn, success is not something you chase, it is something you attract by nature of who you become. So that's my approach. That's my strategy. That's my approach to life. Shout out to Victor. What up, Victor? Just had a call with Victor. Victor's newly in our community. So excited to have Victor be a part of the Millionaire Mindset community. Someone I'm going to be working with closely here over the next couple of weeks. So shout out Victor. And he's someone along with other people that I work with where we work on becoming the individual that attracts success. And the best way I can paint this picture is to remind you that a flower does not go out chasing bees. A flower attracts bees, and the bees bring to the flowers all the pollen the flower needs. So, on that note, Alejandro, you got any final words for these people?
Man, just thank you for sharing all of that, Marlon. It's always great to hear you speak. That's why I don't interrupt, because you, especially when you go on off the off script, it gets really good, man. So I appreciate you for sharing that. And yeah, man, just thank you for everyone that just coming out, hanging out with us on Tuesday, and just being active on the chat. This is the podcast. If you want to think big, and I will say this: if I was in the chat right now, and I was wondering why is it important for me to show up to the Think Big podcast? I would say it's important to show up to the Think Big podcast because, again, like Marlon said earlier, you only know what you know. And if you want to achieve a certain goal in uh, your current education that you have now doesn't help you to get to that goal, well, come hang out in the Think Big podcast so you guys can start to absorb these words that we speak and these experiences that we share with you guys so you can understand that it's okay to think differently than your current circle, to think differently than your current belief system. And because, man, holy crap, dude, if back then, 17, 18, when I believed that, if I make $5,000 a month, I'm good. Dude, if the Think Big podcast existed and someone told me, hey, no, it's okay to make $100,000 a month. It's okay to make $1 million a day. Right? All that stuff is possible. And it's really important for you to feed your mind this information so you can start to think and ponder and dream about these information we're sharing with you guys. So when you wake up the next day, it's okay to be successful and it's okay to be a little bit different every single day to reach your goals.
Bro, freaking love it. Dude, I love it. So, guys, thank you so much for being here with us tonight again for episode 54 of the Think Big podcast. We will be back next week. We will be looking to bring on some absolutely amazing guests as time goes on because there's just people I want to talk to, quite frankly. So here's what I want. I'm going to ask for something a little bit different this week because I'm seeing a lot of like the people in the chat. It's our friends, it's people that we've seen here before. So first off, thank you so much for being here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know you did. This is what would be super, super, super crazy helpful is when this podcast ends, right? So I'm asking you to do something a little bit different. When this podcast ends, afterwards, I want you to comment, not in the live chat, but in the actual comment on the actual video itself. The reason I want you to comment there, first off, let me tell you what I want to see in that comment. I would love to know either a topic that you want us to cover. Perhaps here's an idea. Maybe it's a problem you're experiencing in your business. So maybe you share with us, hey, Marlon, Alejandro, Sam, this is a problem I'm running into in my business, or this is a problem I'm running into in my life. As I'm growing my business, my wife doesn't understand. As I'm working on my business, my teammates don't understand. Hey, I have this business partner where we've been doing really well for the first 2 years, but now we're in year 4. And I mean, we just do not, I don't know what to do. It's not working out well, right? Whatever it may be. Hey, our text campaigns messing up, or hey, it's been 3 years and I don't want to be here anymore. Whatever it is, please share with us your biggest challenge. Maybe your challenge is, look, I'm so new, I feel overwhelmed, and we'll be able to help you out with that. So please leave that comment on the actual video, because what's going to happen is after this video is done, we don't always get to see the comments. Like, in order for us to go and see the comments, we would literally have to go back and rewatch the entire video and scroll through hundreds of comments from y'all talking. So I want you to go and just leave it on the video after we finish up. That's the first thing I'm asking. The second thing that I'm asking is for you guys to all have an amazing night and come back again next Tuesday for another episode of Think Big. That's it. Those are the two things. So tell us what your biggest challenge is, and then have an amazing night and come back next week. So on that note, guys, we will see you back here next week at 8 p.m. Eastern for the Think Big podcast.